I like to flip things on their head because I think the way we've been doing things are broken. And so I truly think that the best businesses originate at a water park in India, where there's 100 kids who were formerly exploited through forced labor and human trafficking are now free to play. See, that's where I think the best businesses originate. Or at least maybe they should originate. See, this is where I get myself in trouble. My mom just sits here and goes, why do you think this way? Oh my gosh. Like, could you just keep it straight, please? And believe it or not, I was actually in front of this ride 7 years ago, just outside of Bangalore, at a water park called Wonderla. Wonderla. The beautiful Wonderla. And I was watching these kids go flying around on this ride, getting sick as they were flying around on this thing. And someone walked up to me and they put their arm around me and they looked at the kids and they just said, isn't this what it's all about? And I'll be honest, no, not at all. In fact, I think that is a complete and utter failure. These kids were already exploited. How is that a success? These kids have already gone through unimaginable things in their lives. How is that a success? These kids are the lucky few. There might be tens of thousands of survivors of human trafficking in the world today, but there's 40 million people still in slavery today. That data just came out 2 weeks ago. In-depth research in partnership with Gallup. The traffickers themselves, according to the International Labor Organization, make $150 billion a year. That's more than Nike, Google, and Starbucks combined. Those of us who fight this crime, we bring in about $150 million to fight it. So that's where my mind space was at. It had been kind of ruminating on these facts and figures. And it just all came to a crashing halt there in India in front of that weird ride going round and round and round. That's what it feels like. You're just going round and round and round. You can spend all your time and your days pulling people out of trafficking and slavery. And really, that's where Not For Sale started. Almost 11 years ago now, we had incredible projects. We supported Lucy in Peru and Lima. We supported TOS in Amsterdam. And we supported Krunam in Thailand. And these incredible people are on the grounds. We've got another one, Darian, back here. Darian, can you put your hand up? Darian over here in the Bay Area. These are the heroic people who are on the front lines of this crime. And yet, honestly, I think we put them at an incredible disadvantage. Because not only are we not resourcing them with the right capital, not only are we not resourcing them with the right talent, we also put incredible and ridiculous cultural and social expectations on them. In fact, I know that these people have faced people coming to them and say, why haven't you figured it out? Why haven't you figured it out? This is your full-time job, right? Well, it just happens to be that Darian runs around 80 hours a week working with 100 survivors here in the Bay Area to get them jobs. The same with every other project that we support. 6, 7 years ago, we knew we were at a failure point and that we had to fundamentally reinvent charity. And when you try to reinvent charity, you realize you also have to reinvent business. And I want to explain why. I think 7 years ago, there's this guy, Steve Jobs, maybe you've heard of him. He had this thing, he had to say, think different. You have to think different, right? Because if you don't think different, there's no way you can act different. And we've been thinking wrong about how we value each other and how we actually interact with one another. And I want to talk about this. See, this idea that you make money with your right hand, in fact, you can do whatever you want. You can perpetrate slavery, you can destroy the planet, you can do whatever you need to make money for yourself, wealth generation. And then once you make enough money, you can be a philanthropist. Now you put a gold star on, yay, I'm so cool, and I'll give money to my left hand. And we celebrate that. we have been operating on this bifurcated model of making money here to give it away here. It's soul crushing. And I want to illustrate it with a little bit of technological history. This idea of making money with your right hand and giving it to your left hand, it didn't start here with this piece of technology. The steam engine train came in 1909. The idea that we have all been operating on, it's almost like oxygen. It's just normal. This is how we operate. Has been since the 1500s. We built a legal system, we've built a political system, we've built a business system, and we've built a charity system all on top of this idea, this thought that we have to keep these impact, we have to keep business and impact apart from one another. It's wrong. See, this piece of technology was the original steam engine idea. It took 500 years for it to become something like a steam engine train. But we're still operating and thinking about how we create scalable impact with the same mindset as 500 years ago. It's wrong. It's wrong. All great business stories start with 100 kids that were exploited in Peru. In fact, this one actually did. This is called Rebel, and make sure you try it on the way out. Let me share a little story. Oh wait, here's another one. Here's a shoe company. Also started because of these kids in Peru. See, that same time that I was in India, we had a project. We were pulling kids out of trafficking and slavery in Lima. There's 3 prevalent forms of forced labor in Lima. Forced begging rings, forced domestic, so working in homes, and also the commercial sex trade. And we're talking about all the way from young toddler kids all the way up to 16, 18 years old. And we were doing what every other organization does. We were pulling them out and getting them into a home and hopefully into education and long-term restoration. But we knew that we couldn't stop there. We had to think more upstream because that's downstream. That's helping people after. That's failure. We had to look at our data. And we found that a disproportionate number of those kids were coming from the Amazon. And when we went to the Amazon, we literally and figuratively went upstream in 2010. And what we found probably does not surprise you. Things like illegal gold mining, this lower right-hand picture here is illegal gold mining in the Amazon. It's polluting the local environment. And people who had lived for literally thousands and thousands of years, indigenous communities who lived off the land, were for the first time forced to live on small plot lands, and can you imagine, first time in the last 20 years, introduced to the cash economy. And they didn't even know what value was. This cost $3.50. What are you talking about? What do you mean it cost $3.50? See, traffickers would come in and prey on that vulnerability, sell the people an idea that their kids would be better off down in Lima, and they would return money back to those communities. And that's where we were finding those kids downstream. And so we knew that there was a role to play here. Not for sale as a nonprofit had a role to support those kids. We could help do training. We literally did trainings on what is value. We did trainings on how you develop out business practices that you could link to global supply chain in a healthy way. And that was the second side of the same coin. We knew that the communities there were sitting on incredible opportunity. And I think this is also part of the mind change that we're talking about. A traditional charity would have gone into the Amazon and looked at everything that was wrong, and then went back to the donor marketplace and said, look at everything that's wrong, give me money. I want to go help these people. Well, we actually looked at it and said, look at all the opportunities here. And we pulled together a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We pulled together a business plan because we knew these communities were sitting on incredible ecological wealth that could be harnessed in a healthy way, that could actually have them included in a global marketplace. And that's what we set out to do. We took that SWOT analysis, we took that business plan, and we had a little event.
So we were joking around and we said, what if we locked all of the smartest business leaders that we know in one room and had them solve all of our problems for us? And that's pretty much what we did. We gathered top leaders from business and culture, and we broke them into small groups, and we asked them to compete to come up with the best business model to create jobs in the Amazon.
One of the most extraordinary groups in terms of the range of characters in it included a lawyer, included the founder of an online healthcare company, it included an agronomist, and a baseball player.
These are large people in large corporations, and they're brilliant minds, and they've got brilliant ideas. I didn't go to college. I signed out of high school. I don't have a business degree in anything. That was out of place, it really was. I didn't feel like I had anything to offer.
The guy from the online health company started to look on Google and found out that there was this unusual plant called cat's claw that came out of the Amazon.
And I was sitting there and I was drinking tea. I remember I was getting into this tea concept, and I just said, hey, can you do an herbal tea type? Can you make this a tea? And we all just looked at each other, and we were like, man, that's actually an interesting thought.
It's a tea company that sources ingredients in the Amazon and creates jobs. That's the idea that eventually became Rebel.
Within an hour, we created this whole business idea around this tea, and then we had to present it, and they made me present it, and I don't know anything about presenting that kind of stuff.
And Rebel won because it was so practical in creating jobs for the people in that region. It linked a consumer up with a producer, someone who wanted to be involved in changing the world with the people who most needed that change.
The next thing I know, I'm getting stuff in the mail, and Dave asked me if I want to invest in the tea. And I actually was like, what tea? At first. And he's like, the tea idea you came up with. And I'm like, you're actually running with that? So now I got bragging rights. It was my idea,
So coming out of this event, it's really a design think event over 36 hours, and we told everyone there, we're like, we feel like we're failures. At that point, Not for Sale was literally one of the largest anti-trafficking NGOs in the world. We had an annual budget of $5 million, which puts you in the top 0.5% of all NGOs in the world. We had a supply chain app where you could scan a barcode on a product that would pop up a grade A through F as to the work that a company was doing to mitigate their risk to forced labor in their supply chain. Again, it's weird to think that what the world perceives as winning really is failure when you look at the grander scheme of what you're up against. And we knew we had to think bigger. And by looking at the history of what we were dealing with, we knew we had to just absolutely get outside the box, which is why we went to a baseball player. Get the baseball player to help us out, right? Well, we told the people in that group that we would execute on the idea that they came up with. We will actually go do it. And I think they all thought we were joking, but we were damn serious. And so the next week, I was down in Los Angeles and I met this guy, Paulo Hawken. Paulo Hawken is a freaking genius. I was lucky to get a meeting with him. It's a good thing our network was able to unlock him. He had just left Zico coconut water, and he had developed their two top selling flavors. And he was just burnt out. Like you could just tell, he was kind of like, oh man, life is rough. Like Zico was just hard on him, just in terms of, you're working every day, it's the grind. And I flew down, and he's like, I'm not sure I'm feeling beverages anymore. I might want to do other things. And he's like, you're a nonprofit guy. Like, why are you here? And there's all this backstory that you just got walked through. And I was like, how do I explain this to him? I have no idea where to even start. And so I just blurted out, well, there are kids being exploited in Peru today, and we have to start a company to stop it. And I kid you not, his response was, what the fuck? And this is what I love about Paulo. I think all of us have what the fuck moments. Every single one of us has them. And you have a choice. Do you actually examine those and try to understand them and pick out the goodness that is within them? Or do you look at those what the fuck moments and you just let it go? I would submit to you, think about examining those, understanding those, because they might be the thing that propels you to do something that you never thought possible. And so together, Paulo and our team, within 18 months, we had a beverage on the shelves. We had gone from 3 different brand iterations. The idea that Jeremy came up with was so smart and good. It was called Smart Tea. Yeah. And then we moved to Headwater Teas, even worse. And then we met Paulo. Paulo's like, look, I've been thinking about this brand for 20 years. It's Rebel. Not only can you be a rebel drinking this, but it stands for roots, extracts, berries, bark, and leaves. How beautiful is that? And so he is absolutely the genius behind this brand. Today, Rebel is the fastest growing natural organic beverage in the United States. I know people who have all this in-depth data. Less than 3% of all companies make the level of where Rebel is at already, about 5.5 years into, in terms of its financial success, within the first 5 years of its existence. And I want to be really explicit about this. Rebel is not a fair trade company or an organic company. It is those things, absolutely. But in one way to think about it is Rebel is a project of not for sale. It's kind of weird that a nonprofit would start a company that's a project. Well, we kind of view it that way because we're testing and we're learning, we're trying to understand how do you scale impact in a fundamentally different way. And so we built into the bylaws of the company. So if you're ever to start a company, don't pull the business plan for dummies book. Don't do it. Don't be tempted. Think about what you want to have impact in the world and put it in the laws of your company. Make sure that is codified from day one. And that's what we did. We made sure that the company had to be committed to impact sourcing. So we pulled all of our knowledge and our information that we had from our supply chain days working on the supply chain app, and we applied it to a code of conduct and made sure that was built into the bylaws of the company. Not for Sale has a board seat. How often does a nonprofit have a board seat on a company? In perpetuity. We have founding equity. Yes, nonprofits can own part of companies. Yes. And this is really important. This is the old model. It's just 1 for 1, baby. No. This is 2.5%. So every time you buy a Rebel, there is money coming in off for sale. Gross. It's not net. If it was net, we'd be in trouble. This is literally a hard cost that Rebel has to bear. It is a hard cost Rebel has to talk to investors about. And yet it's still an incredibly successful company. It flips the model. Remember, we were up against, we needed game-changing talent. Well, today we have Cheryl Laughlin, founder of Plum and the former CEO of Cliff Bar. Now, she brought Cliff from $150 million a year in sales to $350 million in sales. Our recruitment of Cheryl went like this. Hey, Cheryl, in the old days, we would have come to you because you're a successful entrepreneur. Will you donate $25,000 to Not For Sale? And then you can go to the Amazon and you can build a school. And she's like, well, I don't know how to build a school. Well, we'll teach you how to build a school. Oh, okay, all right, sounds like a fun trip. Who's that for? Is it for her or is that for the community? Maybe a little bit of both. What we're talking about is we have literally built a business model that she can take all the skills and the know-how that she has built over the last 25, 30 years and apply that to this company. She was like, what? How cool. Wait, I could be the largest donor to Not For Sale by doing great business. And the business itself is impact. Okay, that's pretty cool. Also, game-changing capital. I can tell you in the last 2 weeks, I've had 2 large investors come to me and beg to put money into Rebel. We don't need it. When was the last time a nonprofit had someone come beg to donate to them? No, it doesn't happen. So Rebel has been able to raise significant capital that an entity like Not For Sale never could. So this is an abundance model. This is what we call it, the abundance model. As Rebel scales financially, so does the impact. Not only is it money coming back to Not For Sale, but as the number of ingredients that we purchase and we buy, we know that we can track where they're coming from. We actually have We know we source from 39 countries, and we're starting to build rapport and relationship with all of the communities that we're sourcing from. We have a full-time employee at Rebel who looks at supply chain and impact. It's pretty cool. There's not too many companies that have someone full-time looking at that. And every time someone buys a Rebel, we've looked at the data, about 6th purchase, someone starts to find, wow, not for sale. What's this all about? Now there's more and more people finding not for sale and the message of anti-trafficking work through our products, instead of saddling the NGO with that work. And as I mentioned, Rebel today is the largest donor to not for sale. It's pretty cool. And we use a portion of that capital to reinvest back into the Amazon communities where we source ingredients that go into Rebel and other products. So it's a very holistic system. The last thing, I really want Rebel to be a virus. I really do. I think this would be really cool. What I mean is this. Wouldn't it be cool? I know this might sound like, no, you're just a sellout. I was like, no, I don't think I'm a sellout. I think we're intentional. See, I would love for a Coca-Cola or a Snapple or a PepsiCo come buy us. Come purchase Rebel. Why? Because that means we have a place inside that global conglomerate to talk about our business practice. We have a place inside global conglomerates to talk about why doing better for the people and for the planet, and it's good for your sales. Now, we've been able to develop a relationship with a company like Ben & Jerry's to actually map this out and try to figure out how we do this best. If you had told me 7 years ago when I was sitting in Bangalore watching the kids play that there's an opportunity to change the supply chain of a company like Coca-Cola by 1% in my lifetime, I wouldn't have believed you. That would be more impact I could ever have in my life than through any other part of the work that we do. But it only comes with intentional thinking about how the business is one that has a great product that is compelling for people to buy, but also has the DNA of something we can all be proud of. See, Rebel is the mission. It's not for sale is the mission, and we started a company, and the company is pretty cool. No, Rebel itself is the mission. And we didn't stop there. See, our goal is to create an ecosystem of companies that scale and grow. And remember I told you that the anti-trafficking space had $150 million to implement its work. Well, in the last 12 months, through Rebel and our ecosystem of companies that we've been able to build and scale, through revenue, through investment capital, and through philanthropic donations, our ecosystem of companies that are built this way have generated $150 million. That's scale. And we have to be thinking that way to be able to attack a crime like this. Our goal is to create, within the next 30 years, a $150 billion ecosystem of companies we can all feel proud of. Why not be at the same level and aspire to kick traffickers' ass at their own game? They're just business people. So here's an example. We started a restaurant chain. We have the best brunch restaurant in Amsterdam. See, it's not a place where you're going to go and find young women who have come out of trafficking. It's a place where you go get a great brunch. It's a place where you also know that there's a culinary training program for survivors of trafficking. It's great food. So if you're in Amsterdam, go check it out. We help scale a natural organic protein snack company. Check it out. Square Organics. Delicious. Absolutely delicious. I'm addicted. I eat one every single day. I like to end my day with a beer, so why not start a beer company? So we have Not For Sale Ale. This is in Europe. We also have Not For Sale Ale in partnership with Half Moon Bay Brewery here in the Bay Area. And one of the companies we started recently is one of our startups. It's called Z Shoes. This follows in the footsteps. This follows in the footsteps. I just came up with that. It follows in the supply chain footsteps of Rebel. So our team was down in the Amazon, and we knew we could source ingredients that could make a cool shoe. Again, it's a great shoe, a cool shoe, California cool, and it also has the impact you want built inside of it. We are trying to flip the script. We think that as you bring the power and scale of business closer together with the power of the heart, for me, I truly believe that that business element is your brain at work. But you can unlock so much more with your heart. And where those two meet, that is true vocation and that is true passion. And that's what we're trying to create in this ecosystem, is a place where you can match your head and your heart to scale great companies that do great things. So thanks for having me. Appreciate it.